Hello everyone, this is Ritesh, an IIT Bhubaneswar alumnus and software engineer. Today I'll be taking you to the world of React and Flux. So let's get started. What is ReactJS? ReactJS is nothing but a UI library built by Facebook to improve the creation of interactive, stateful, and usable UI components. One of the unique feature it has that it helps us overcome the limitation of DOM manipulation of browser for an interactive UI by introducing a concept of DOM virtual DOM that selectively renders subtree of nodes based upon state changes. React.js is being used in production by Facebook, and sites like Instagram has entirely converted its codebase and built in React.js. Facebook chat, which used to be buggy earlier with notifications on messages not sync, is all very smooth, all thanks to React.js and Flux. The key features of React.js, as you will point out, is that it can be used both on the client as well as on the server side. React.js helps us solve the problem of updating UI of larger web applications where data changes over time continuously. React is simple, declarative, built of compatible components, and yes, you need to give it some time to get a nice flavor of it. When you see the React code for a first time, what you might think is that isn't it ugly? Like all the HTML elements which used to be written in earlier in other components is clubbed in JS file in React in the JSX format. So while seeing the code for the first time, you might get confused. Is this JavaScript or is this some other kind of language that is built upon JavaScript or used with JavaScript? But the thing is that it's JavaScript only, and its React is not just a templating language. You might interpret that it is a templating language, as you will find that HTML files are rendered are written inside JS file only. So you might think that it is a templating language only, but it's not. It does more than that. The code that the JSX code, the JSX what we use in React basically increases the efficiency as it performs the optimization while compiling the source code to JavaScript. Some more points on React will be like if you ever have worked with JavaScript, you would have seen the MVC, model view controller architecture, being followed, which in React.js only the views, and it does not care about how the data is passed or handled across the web applications. So React is basically about the views, and the Flux part takes care of the data that renders, that helps us rendering the React. So this was mostly the architectural problem that is outside the scope of React.js, and to overcome that, what I was telling about, to overcome the data problem, handling problem, the Facebook proposed a functional approach which they called as Flux. Flux architecture is like action gets triggered first, which triggers the dispatcher, and dispatcher in turn triggers the store, which stores all the data, and which then and the store is responsible for passing the data to the views, which is responsible for updating the DOM and showing it to the components in the website or web browser something. So Flux introduced the concept of actions, dispatchers, and stores. Mutation of data can only be done through calling the actions. This architecture allows us for the data flow in a single direction only, and hence makes it easier to monitor data flow, data changes affecting the application. The most basic functions of UI is to display some data, and React makes it easy to do that, as well as keep the page updated with least DOM mutations to browser. Now you all can write a basic React code. by like going to the React side and finding out some code. You can write it and run it in a browser. So while going into React in more deep, what you will come first is that what is JSX? JSX is a simple language that lets you create JavaScript objects from HTML syntax, which runs faster on the browsers compared to the normal JavaScript. It's a strictly object-oriented programming language. It has syntax, class or function definitions like Java, function body is JavaScript, and strict type leads to a higher productivity than JavaScript. Few more facts about JSX are like the code written in JSX when compiled runs faster than equivalent JS code. The code is optimized using type info. Compiled code generates source map for debugging. What is source map? Source map. It is a technology that supports debugging of client-side code on web browsers written in language other than JavaScript. Now, what are React components? While going through any lectures on React, you will hear React components a lot. So, what is React component? Components in React can be thought of as a simple function which takes props and states as arguments and renders HTML based on that. Note: React components can render only a single root node. If the requirement is to return multiple nodes, then it must be wrapped in a single root, otherwise the component will not render. The inputs to the components are called props, sorts for properties. Props are passed as attributes in JSX syntax. Props are not changed inside in a component and are treated as immutable objects. The state of the component is stored in this dot state of the component. In React, everything is a component. React has no controller, directives, or templates. Neither it has global event listeners, no view models, etc. It only has components which, once understood, makes life really easy and removes complexities. For example, you have a simple shopping below which is generally made as a template which contains too much code for all the elements together, and the data is all handled in model and controller. But if you want the same to be implemented in React, it becomes pretty much simple and all revolves around the component. Like for example, you can see the Flipkart shopping cart. So what it from there, you can see that it has a cart component, cart list component, buttons components, etc. The advantage of using component is that it is really composable, reusable, maintainable, and testable. React also offers reliable data display. It has no built-in framework. In React, any component can communicate with another component. In React, there's a one-way data flow only. Data is handled from parent to child. The data is passed as props from the parent component to inner component and accessed as this dot props. Props is immutable and state is mutable. So state can become props. Data flows down with handlers. Events flow up and data flows down. Virtual DOM. Now, what is virtual DOM? It's a pure JavaScript in memory representation of DOM. Render fires whenever something changes. React modifies the real DOM to match. The concept of virtual DOM, it's very fast, pure, and just works in React. Now coming to the lifecycle methods. So some basic questions as of now. As I said earlier, React works on virtual DOM. So how do I access the actual DOM? When I come to know that render has happened for the React component, the answer lies in React lifecycle method. The lifecycle method are executed at specific points in React lifecycle. Some of the React lifecycle methods are component will mount, component did mount, component will receive props, should component update, component will update, component did update, component will mount, etc. So all these React lifecycle methods will discuss in later, like in the next video lecture. Okay, thanks, bye.